to another video. My name is Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, in this video, I'm going to be speaking about the idea of removing the blocks that we might find in front of us with the idea of the law of attraction. Now, today I was thinking to myself while I was at work, I was like, what kind of video do I want to create tonight for you guys tomorrow, which is today that you guys are watching it. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, what am I going through right now? Well, I realized that I was going through a level of resistance that I was feeling towards having like the outcomes I desired for my day, and that I would talk about that. Now, in understanding this, I get paid commission, so I only make the amount of money I do based upon the percentage of what I sell for the day. So with that being said, I was figuring and seeing that as I was helping people for the good like 2/3 of my day, I was feeling a lot of resistance. Like every customer that I would help, I found that it was like they were passing, they wanted me to put things on hold, it was like they weren't ready to make the decision, whatever it was. I noticed that I was getting a lot of that the first like 2/3 of my day. And then what happened is I thought about it and I was like, why am I going through this? Why am I feeling this? Well, I realized, and I do this every now and then, I'll realize the same idea, so it's a constant reminder that I was being completely attached to the outcome, and I was not necessarily seeing customers as somebody I could connect to or having their best interest at heart. So the idea that like I add value to them in some way, the idea was more so that I was seeing them as like a stepping stone for me to get closer to my goal, to the outcome of what I had in my head. Now, the thing that made this resistant was it wasn't happening the way that I wanted it to happen. And because of that, that gap was me feeling that resistance. Now, the moment that I realized this, I went out to the next customer, and it was like literally right then and there, something began to shift, because I began to, as I was helping them, not care whether they bought it or not. I started to really just, whatever their best interest is, or whatever they want to do, that is okay. And all I began to be attached to was the action I could take. I would just take that action, but I was not then attached to the outcome of what happened. Now, the paradox of this was that the moment I did that, everything began to change. It was like the customers could feel that I was being more genuine, and there was a totally different response between me and the customer, and it was like everything just started to happen easier and easier for me. It was like everything, I allowed it to happen versus me having to control it and to get in there and to make it happen. Now, the idea behind this is understanding that sometimes the way we think things need to happen can actually be a limitation from the way it could happen. Because when we get focused and we start to see people more as tools than the idea of seeing them as people, the idea is that sometimes what happens is then that limits the expression of what could really happen, and people can feel that. So maybe at some level, the customers I was helping earlier on in the day could feel that I was restricting myself and I wasn't being genuine because I was more of looking at them as a stepping stone than as actual people. And you could kind of feel that through the idea of the law of state transference. Like whatever I feel, the customers feel. So if I'm feeling like I'm restricting myself because I have a certain way that things have to happen, and if it's not happening, then they can feel that too, it becomes something that leaks into itself. So the idea behind this was that the moment I let go of the outcome, and whatever happened could happen, but I would still take action and do what I had to do, the idea is that then everything just began to flow. It became more like all that weight that was on my back just went away, and I was just okay with whatever happened, and then everything, consequently enough, happened the way I wanted to anyways. So it's a funny paradox, but nonetheless, that has been one of the most powerful tools that I have found for really being able to let go of the idea of the outcome. Now, understand that action is still important, and I'll talk about that again in a minute. Now, the second way that we can go about the idea of getting ourselves to remove those blockages is understanding how our beliefs create our reality. Now, what happens is when we're born, we go through a process of conditioning. We are attached to our parents or whoever raised us, and the idea is that we begin a process of conforming to our environment and relating to our environment in a certain way to where our beliefs begin to form. And as our beliefs begin to form, that begins to shape the way that we see the world and shape the way that we relate to the world. Now, sometimes people will go through a limiting childhood where maybe they weren't allowed to get what they want, they weren't allowed to buy what they want, their parents told them that money doesn't grow on trees, insecurities. Their parents told them that they couldn't have whatever they desired, and from that, people may develop certain beliefs. And then they may try the idea to create what they want in their life, but find themselves brushing up against this little box that's been created. And a lot of times that box is something that's invisible because we're not aware of what those limiting beliefs are. But this is the key. The moment we become aware of what those unconscious beliefs were, we can then acknowledge the idea that we no longer resonate with those beliefs because we see that they were unconscious for most of our lives. But the moment we become aware of it, we can choose to let it go. The process itself ends the moment we become aware of it because we do not identify with it anymore. The only way that we identified with it before was because it was on autopilot. But the moment we become aware of it, we let it go. Now, the idea behind this is to ask yourself, when I was born, maybe all the way up until the age of like 12 or 13 and sometimes even later, what were the predominant beliefs of my parents or the people that raised me? What was the environment contributing to me between those ages? And as you begin to become aware of it, you then begin to see that certain things don't resonate anymore. And then as you become aware of it, you can choose to let those beliefs go. So understanding that when we begin to let our beliefs go, we then begin to transcend those limiting beliefs to where then things can happen in a much easier way. Now, the third way that we can go about removing those blocks is understanding the idea of taking massive action. Now, normally there's so much hype with the idea of the law of attraction towards the idea of just thinking what you want and it comes and it comes and it flows. Now, I'm not saying people don't have those experiences, but I am saying that what makes it so much more powerful and what I found to be the way that it happens is through massive action. Now, a lot of times we can overthink what we are wanting to create towards the law of attraction. And the idea with overthinking it is we have so much time to think about it that then it's like we become our worst enemy because we begin to overanalyze it, what they call analysis paralysis. And the way that we get through this is just simply by taking massive action. Take so much action that your thinking mind shuts off. You don't have time to overthink it because you're in the mode of execution rather than theory. So many people with the law of attraction stick in the one mode of theory, and therefore they never actually get what they want because they're not applying the next most important part of the process, which is taking the physical action to bring the etherical thoughts or the idea of the law of attraction and what we're thinking about into our reality. So remember, the three things that you can do is, first off, release the resistance by not being attached to the outcome and how it happens. You can have the outcome in your mind, but you do not need to be attached to the how. Then secondly, what you can do is release the limiting beliefs that you might have about yourself. And as you begin to do that, you'll see that things begin to fall into place more naturally. And then the third thing you can do is just simply take massive action. The more action you take, the more your thinking mind shuts off, the more you get out of theory and into the idea of execution, and the more you are actually able to accomplish what you want. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, share it if you found it of value, and as always, I will see you guys in the next vid. Alright, peace, much love, namaste. Alright, bye.